Ahmed Maher is the Egyptian foreign minister, and he joins us now from Cairo. Foreign Minister Maher, the tricky part now for the United States and for moderate Arab nations, including Egypt, is to find some kind of common ground in this war against terrorism. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree with that. We have condemned this despicable act that took place, this act of terrorism. We believe that the attack on civilians and on important buildings in New York and Washington is something that we should all stand against. We should stand against any aggression. We should stand against any aggression against civilians. We should stand against any attempt to destabilize any nation.
What role will Egypt play in this war on terrorism that the President has talked about in this country?
Let me remind you that a few years ago, President Mubarak suggested an international conference on terrorism. Unfortunately, the idea was not accepted at the time, and we believe that terrorism is addressed to everybody, and we should all work together to combat it. And this is our position. This has always been our position, and we continue to support the idea of cooperation between different countries against terrorism.
Would you agree, even if some of Egypt's adversaries are included in that effort?
Well, it's not a question of adversaries. I don't think any country condones terrorism. If there are people who belong to a country that resort to terrorism, this should not mean that we should generalize against the whole country or a whole community. I believe that it is too early to pronounce any indictment. I think that the inquest has just started, and I would not want to speculate, and I do not want other people to speculate, because these speculations had led to some Muslim women, some Arab women, to have been mistreated in the streets of New York and Atlanta and other states.
Yeah,
I believe that we should keep our calm and not come to conclusions before the inquest is ended.
Yeah, we couldn't agree with you more, and we have been speaking out strongly here during the course of this day about tolerance for people who happen to be Arab Americans, law-abiding citizens who also condemn this act of terrorism. But in fact, this is not just heedless speculation. No, wait, Mr. Foreign Minister, if I may ask you, if we do discover, as it does seem increasingly clear that we might, that it was Osama bin Laden, that he is being harbored in Afghanistan, and that the United States attacks not only Osama bin Laden, but the country that has been harboring him, what would be Egypt's reaction to that?
We believe in the rule of law. I think there are rules, international law, and we should resort to the ways and means dictated by international law and by the international organizations.
So are you saying that if the United States...
I do not believe every country should take revenge.
But if a country is harboring a terrorist who is responsible for this act, that country is equally culpable in the act, is it not?
Well, it depends on the relationship between such a country and the terrorists. But as I say again, we should abide by the rule of law. I don't believe that unilateral action is warranted. I believe that countries have a right of self-defense, but they should resort to international organizations and international law. This is the rule. And I'm sure that the United States, as a country that respects the rule of law, will abide by these laws.
All right, thank you very much. Ahmed Maher, who is the Egyptian foreign minister. We're joined now on the telephone by a retired senior pilot for Delta Airlines, Neil Soderman, who's a